Project Management Insights, providing project managers with professional development in the interpersonal skills areas of leadership, team building, and communication. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Project Management Insights. Today I want to talk to you about language, the language that we use each and every day when we interact with our team members. I think often we don't pay attention to the words that we use or even the tone of our voice. I know I've gotten into trouble many times because I've been told it's not what you said, it's how you said it. So the tone of whatever it is that I've expressed or said to someone. So today, let's dive into these two particular topics because they do have an impact on how a message is received and how willing someone is to respond to us if we are using language that triggers them, sets them off, a tone that they perceive as being derogatory or angry, for example, makes a big difference about what we get out of them or the response that we receive from them. So there's a few things that I found great out of a book called Playing Big. And this is about an email checklist and writing powerful communications. And the writer, the author, talks about things like what she calls shrinkage, words like just, actually, and almost. And do you use those often? And what does it mean? It means that you're actually shrinking the value of what it is that you're talking about from her perspective. And I really like that because I notice that I often use words like that. Do you apologise? Do you find that you apologise quite a lot in your writing? When you're writing emails, do you say sorry all the time? And when there's no real good reason for it, there's no reason to be apologetic. You're only apologetic when you think you've done something wrong. Well, check. Have you done anything wrong? If you're only asking or simply asking for something, then there's nothing wrong with what you've done. And so there's no need to apologise. And I think in terms of tone and the way that we speak to people, I've had an instance myself at work in the last few days where a team member, I was responsible for running the operations for that particular morning, and this team member responded to me with, I know what I'm doing, or I know where I'm going, in a tone that was very aggressive, and I'm going to use the words putting down. It was like she wanted to shut me down and put me down, and that was my impression of it. And then she said, I want change. And again, it was the tone of her voice that had me unsettled about what it was that she was asking for. Because there are ways of asking for things. I mean, she could have said to me, oh, I've put in a change request. Karen, can you honour it for me? Or, Karen, I need some change. Can you get it for me, please? Right? There's a nice way of asking for something. And so check in about either the words that you're using. Do you use but all the time? But. Are you using but when you talk to people? Because but stops a conversation. And but is an apology. It's like saying, oh, I think I'm right and I'm not sure. Well, don't use the word but. You don't need to use the word but. There are other ways of talking to people. I notice, as an example, I notice that you have a particular view on how you think we should do this. And I'm interested in learning about it. And I'm interested in hearing more about your perspective. And can you explain to me why you think that's the way to move forward? Whereas in the past, I would have said, well, I like what you've said, but I really don't think that's the way we need to go. What am I doing? I'm shutting down that other person. I'm making that other person's perspective and that other person's point of view not valuable, not worthy. I'm basically saying to them, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to listen to what you've got to say. This is a way to separate your team. The more that you do this, the more there will be silos in your team, and it will create a sense of separation and disconnection. Now, I know those words are not words that you might have heard very often in relation to project management, and yet here we're talking about relationships. Your language, the language that you use and how you deliver what you say impacts strongly on your relationships and the depth of the relationship that you have with people. Now, you don't need to be their best buddies. You're not going to make personal friends with all of the people on your project team. That's not what happens. And it is possible to have a strong working relationship with these people such that they know you're there, willing to listen, open to hearing their perspective, open to discussing ideas and options, and having a collaborative way of approaching things that come up on a project, talking about things, negotiating things. All of these create a strong relationship. And your language and the words that you use and how you deliver those words are a very, very big part of building that strong relationship. So pay attention to the words that you're using. Pay attention to your tone of voice. Notice when you have anger behind what you're saying. Notice when you deliver something in an aggressive manner. Notice when you're being apologetic. Notice when you're saying sorry all of the time. And notice those things, and then make the concerted effort or the choice to change your language, to change your approach, to look to understand why you're being aggressive or you're feeling defensive in what you say. Get to the bottom of it. There will be real value for you if you're able to do this. And I can tell you from my own experience of going from a person that apologized all the time, that was passive aggressive, so had that tinge of aggression behind a lot of what I said, apologized, was defensive. A lot of my writing was full of those words that were I just described as minimizing my own sense of whatever was going on. I'm a person that used a lot of those words. There's no way that I would have been doing this podcast if I was still in that space. I've explored all of the ways that I was not using powerful language, and I have shifted that and turned it around. And you will notice now that in the way that I deliver this podcast, there's none of those words. I don't use those words now, whereas before they would have been full of them. So pay attention. It can only strengthen your relationships, and that is of value to you in getting your project delivered successfully. All right, that's it for this week's episode of Project Management Insights. Like, share, subscribe. Remember to claim your CPD points if you're a PMI project manager. And happy project managing, and I'll talk to you next week for another episode of Project Management Insights. Thank you for listening to this Project Management Insights podcast. Be sure to visit projectmanagementinsight.com and sign up for our monthly newsletter or to receive updates on upcoming training.